Sammy Moore. We're in Fort Worth, Texas, and it's the 26th of October, 2023, if you can believe that, Sammy.
I know, where is time going?
Incredible. I don't know, but this is an interview of Sammy's life. And Sammy, I'd like for you to start off with your immediate family, your mom and dad and your brothers and sister and all that, and just go from there.
Okay, well, let me take a minute, Duane. Thanks for the opportunity to share everything that, I sat down and wrote the pamphlet, that I was showing you, that I took the time a few years ago to just sit down and reflect where I've been and where the time has gone in 80 years, and the places I've been, the things we've done. It's been interesting. But starting off with my family, my dad was S.D. Moore. S.D. was the initials. That's the only thing we had. Well, I guess he didn't have a name other than S.D. was the initial. And he came from a family of 7 brothers. And my grandfather, his dad, passed away at a young age and left my grandmother to raise 7 boys.
How in the world did she do that?
I don't know, she was a tough lady.
You would have to be.
She was a very tough woman. She was a Cherokee Indian, and she was tough. And so...
was this in Oklahoma?
No, it was in, from the history, you've gone through, excuse me, the history. I gave you the genealogy stuff that, I think she was down around in East Texas, in Mahia and Freestone County, in that area.
Okay.
But she probably came out of Oklahoma. If you saw the pictures, I think her and her twin sister, Sally, her name was Allie, and then Sally. I think her family owned a little grocery store or something. But that's on my dad's side. And my mother's side came from a family of 11 kids.
Big family.
A big family. You had to have more people to pull the plow, so. But anyway, they were old history coming out of Kentucky. I think my grandfather moved the family from Kentucky in a covered wagon, believe it or not, in the late 1800s. That was before my mother was born, of course. But
and they located to here in Texas?
Yeah, and around Stamford, north of Abilene.
Okay.
And believe it or not, he ran freight wagons from Abilene to Stamford or wherever the area they were. So
probably with horses and a wagon.
Horses and wagons, yeah. And you saw the pictures of him sitting on the plow.
Yeah.
a one-row plow with 4 horses to pull it. So, but anyway, I have 3 siblings. And my oldest sister was Mary Helen. She was older, and Louis was next, and Milton, and then I came along. And I guess, I'm sure I was born in Lamesa in the hospital. I think Dr. Frazier was the guy that delivered me. And of course, his name was Samuel. And everybody thought they named me after him because, my middle name's Samuel.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Samuel came from down the line somewhere. So, but that's my family and where we came from. And Milton and I were very close. Louis was older, and Mary Helen was older, and we were not as close as Milton and I. There were only 3 years difference in our ages.
3 years, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we ran around a lot together, and of course got into a lot of things.
A lot of trouble.
Nothing bad, but we were always into something.
I remember Milton had a Mercury automobile, probably 51 or something like that.
Yeah, he had several cars.
Yeah, and he would race that car every weekend. And roll it sometime.
He rolled one time, and it was bad because that one left him with a pretty good scar on his head. But going back, let's see. Our earlier memories, I started to school in the first grade in Klondike.
Okay.
My dad had a farm out in the southwest part of Dawson County in the Klondike community. And I started, he had bought a farm there, and I started in the first grade, and we went in the first grade, and for some reason, I never have found out why he sold the farm, and we moved to Meadow, which is north of Brownfield, little community. We lived in Meadow for, I guess, a year, and while I was in the second grade, I remember we got let out of school early because the war was over. World War II was over, and it was a big deal.
That been in 1945 then.
Yeah, 1945, and we were in Meadow, that area, for like 1 year or 2 years, I guess, and then my grandmother wanted us to come to Ackerley, move to Ackerley, and farm the farm that she had in Ackerley. So off to Ackerley we went, and we were in Ackerley, and I went to school, I guess, from the second or third grade all the way up to the 8th grade. And for reasons I won't get into, we moved to Pumpkin Center, not Pumpkin,
No.
Pumpkin.
That was right north of La Mesa.
Right north of La Mesa, between La Mesa and Welch.
Welch.
You remember they used to call Welch Shacktown a long time ago.
I had forgotten that. Yeah. Yeah.
And we were there in 1952, and had a pretty good crop in 1952, and in 1953 we had the massive drought,
Yeah.
And that summer the sand blew, well, that whole spring, and the sand blew. It was awful. And where we were living, there was an open field across from us.
Oh, brother.
And the sand blew every day right out of the south, and it covered our yard all the way up to the porch. The road was covered over, and we had to park probably a quarter of a mile because you couldn't get in because the road was full of sand. So,
Had to park a quarter of a mile
yeah,
away.
well, and then walk in, and then a lot of times they'd leave the tractor down, we'd drive the tractor. But
Yeah, you could get stuck in sand just like snow or rain or anything.
yeah, I remember. And so in the summer of '53, we moved back into La Mesa. And of course, my dad didn't have any kind of a job because you couldn't farm. There was nothing going on. And that was the first summer we went to Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
There was a construction job. My dad got a job, but I also got a job, and my job was cleaning the mortar off brick after the bricklayers would throw mortar on everything. So worked most of the summer there, and it was the first time I paid Social Security. And of course, several years ago, I got a report from, and I'd forgotten it, from Social Security with, all of the years. And it was the first time I'd pay Social Security. And we came back to La Mesa, and I got a job working for King Roofing.
King Roofing.
King Roofing. I don't know how I got on, but anyway, we were re-roofing the courthouse in La Mesa.
Really?
A super hot job, hard job, but I liked it. It's paying good money.
Yeah.
And a guy came around and asked me how old I was, and I made the mistake of telling him I was 15. And he said, "You got to go. You get out of here, because the insurance finds out you're here, I'm in trouble." So
He was right.
and he was right, yeah. So anyway, that fall I started to La Mesa High School as a sophomore.
So you entered La Mesa High School?
Yeah, I entered La
as a
Mesa High
sophomore.
School, and
Okay.
and I was a sophomore, and in the fall of '53, I guess it was, my dad, of course, there was no work, for anybody really, and he wrote these, his friends from childhood, these two guys in California. And I think they went out there in the '30s when the Dust Bowl was going, and they had farms in Delano, California, in the San Joaquin Valley.
Okay.
They had vineyards and orange groves and cotton farms, and they told him to come to California because they had work for him as long as he wanted to. And so we moved to Delano, California. And I started the high school in Delano, which was totally different than La Mesa.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
It was already integrated, so it was a shock. Not really a shock, but it was unusual to see that they were integrated, because you know how La Mesa was back
Oh, yeah,
then.
totally segregated.
Mm-hmm. So my dad was working for him, and on the weekends, always looking for work, something to do to make a little extra money. And one of the hardest jobs that I ever had was picking up potatoes behind a potato digger. It came, the digger took them up on the ground and threw them off of the back, and they gave me a belt with two big hooks on it and with a tow sack and said, fill it up.
Oh, my goodness.
Nickel a bag.
Nickel a bag.
And try to get 100 bags, in a day to make $5, which is, $5
In those days,
1953 was
Yeah.
was good money.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then on the weekends, a lot of times I would go down. They had a place on the corner downtown. You go down, and there was an old school bus that'd pick up everybody that wanted to go with them, go out and pick cotton. So, now picking cotton is different than pulling bowls.
It sure is.
So it is, you got to get 100 pounds, you got to really, it takes a long time, but they paid $3 a 100.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but it was a lot of indigent people, a lot of people that just wanted to get $1 or $2 to get wine for the rest of the day, so.
Right.
After their first weigh up, because they paid every time you weighed up, well, there was a stream of people walking back to town. So,
Going to the liquor store.
going to the liquor store. But anyway, that I did, and I think I told you before, these two brothers was Bill Ingram and Saul Ingram. Saul he was married, a long time married, and didn't have children. And then, of course, Bill was the other guy. He had a Ford dealership, I think, at one time. But he had a son and a daughter. But we called them both, Milton and I called them Uncle Bill and Uncle Saul, which they liked, so. But they were going to set my dad up with his own farm to work, furnish him equipment, which was an outstanding deal at the time. And in the meantime, my grandmother was sick in Ackerley, and wanting my mother to come take care of her. And I told you before, I think that out of 10 other kids, they either would or couldn't or wouldn't take care of her, so.
I see. Yeah.
So my dad gave up, and we went back to La Mesa to basically,
Yeah.
So I'm back into school in La Mesa, and then I finished out my sophomore year in La Mesa, and in the summer my dad got a place to work the next year in '54. And he told me, he said, instead of getting a job, if you'll help me all summer long, at the end of the year, I'll give you a bale of cotton and you can sell it and get whatever. But at the end of the year, we didn't make enough to break even, so I didn't get a bale of cotton. So I worked all summer for nothing. Hoeing cotton, driving the tractor, doing everything, you know. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, when school started, they had the DO programs that you and I both were in.
Yep.
Mr. Hatchett was our
Our teacher.
Mr. Smatchett, you know, that's what we call him. Boy, we gave him a hard time.
Oh, sure did.
But he got me a job working at Davis Furniture. And I don't know, they wouldn't pay me but 50 cents an hour. But, you know, you couldn't quit. You had to stay for the year, you know. So I toughed it out for...
Now the DO program, the DE program, you would go to school half a day and you'd work
half a day, yeah.
Yeah.
But to make, you know, to kind of make it a brighter spot, this blonde-headed girl came into my life about that time, you know, and for some unknown reason, you know, I guess we were acquaintances, really, I don't know.
You probably knew each other or saw each other in high school.
Just we saw each other in high school
Yeah.
because she was a sophomore and I was a junior.
Yeah.
Because I ran with another, you know, I guess the wild bunch over here. And she, you know, she ran with Diane and Cindy and all of this group on the other side. And
Well, would always meet at down on the square
yeah,
and ride around the square. And,
yeah, the guys circle the inside and the girls the outside. But
yeah, and that was the routine for the teenagers in Lamesa.
Down in Lamesa, Texas, right on the courthouse square. All the guys and all of the chicks, well, they hang out down there. The gals would go one way around the square and the guys around the other. When we would meet, we would slow way down, check out one another.
But she asked me out of the blue if I would go to the Sadie Hawkins dance with her. It was when the girls asked the boys one time a year. And how long did it take me to say yes? Oh boy, and we never made it to the dance. She came and picked me up in her dad's car. And she said, "You drive," and I said, "Okay." So we never made it to the dance, and we rode around and wanted to get something to eat, you know. So we drove over to Big Springs, believe it or not, and there was this place called the Nut House, good hamburger place. So we went over and ate hamburgers, and we came back to Lamesa and continued to ride around. And I guess you could say the date lasted 64 years, 51 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, that was a long date.
The long date. And because I guess the Lord puts you in places where He wants you, you know.
I guess so.
Because she never looked at another guy, and I never looked at another girl. The whole, you know, I guess it was just supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we, you know, went together through high school, and because I think she wanted to get married 2 weeks after we started dating. But
She knew what she wanted.
she knew what she wanted, and but I know guys hit on her, but she shut them down in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it come time to when we're starting to make things official. I had to go meet your dad, and now that was hard to do.
Oh yeah.
Because that was the old way. You go talk to the dad before you do anything.
Oh yeah.
So
That was the way to do it back
that
then.
was the way you did it, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done, I think. But anyway, he was, you know, asked all the usual questions. What are you going to do? How are you going to make it? You know, so. But anyway, let's see. Let me back up. I finished out the year at Davis Furniture, and the minute school was out, I walked down the street and went to work for Shotwell Furniture. And they taught me upholstery and refinishing furniture and making furniture. And that has been with me that is a life lesson that you learn. And if you look in the room, this table and all this stuff that I've made, that's all through the years I've done,
You never know when a profession like that is going to be a lifelong, hobby and a profession,
Yeah, and I think your dad wanted her to go to college.
I remember him telling Charline she could get married, but she had to go one semester, at least one semester to Texas Tech. So, of course, she did.
Yeah.
And then y'all immediately got married.
Well, as soon as school was out in '56, I went to work in the oil field. Yeah. And the first rig I worked on was George Bush's rig.
That's not George W.
Not
Bush.
George W., but that was George Herbert. Yeah. Anyway, he had a rig, and I worked on it about 2 weeks, I guess. And I thought I knew everything in the world, and of course that job played out. And when you work in the oil field, your job is only as long as the rig runs.
That's right.
So I talked my way on to work with this guy working for Montex Drilling Company. And I still remember when we pulled up on the location that night that I got out, and they were going in the hole, and the motors were, the iron was rattling, and the motors were accelerating. It was an awesome sound, and I can still hear that now.
That's true.
And it didn't take me very long to find out how much I did not know. But they were very patient. Yeah. The driller was really patient. His name was Harold Price. And the crew was older guys that most of them were World War II vets.
Yeah.
Patient people, hardworking, and they gave me a break. And by the end of the summer, I worked all summer long, and by the end of the summer, I thought, hey, I got a few bucks saved up. I'm going to try to go to college. So I quit, of course, and enrolled at Howard County Junior College. And I thought, well, I'll make it for the semester, and then I'll do what. I was out of money in October, November, 1st of November. So there was a lot of rigs running, so I got a job working morning tower. Everybody calls it graveyard now, but it was morning tower there. Yeah. Go to work at 11, get in, and I had a PE class at 8 o'clock. So it made it a little tough.
Yeah.
But anyway, I made the semester, came on home. I had rented a room in Big Springs, and stayed. That's where I stayed when I was down there. But I came back home and then went to work for Montex again. And 2 weeks in, I was doing really good. I thought this is going to last a while, and we were digging, and we had skidded the rig that day, and went back that night, and we were digging the surface hole, picking up 8-inch drill collars. And this old guy rolled one over on my leg and foot that smashed it up pretty good, In fact, I spent 13 weeks in a cast and on crutches, and of course the Montex job went away. And after after all that was done, I got an insurance settlement for $1,250.
That was big money back
That
then.
was big money. So the first thing I did, in fact, I found the receipt recently when I was going through stuff. I bought her wedding ring, an engagement ring at Zales Jewelry.
Yeah.
Paid $350 for it. So, but in the fall, I thought, well, I'll go to trade school and see how that works out. And it was electronic school, and about halfway into through the year, I realized that technology they're teaching is already outdated. So anyway, in the meantime, Charline and I got married in February 8th, 1958. We had an apartment in Lubbock. Of course, she had finished her semester at college. And it's funny, we got married. I had $200 in my pocket. We went to, where'd we go? We went to Hobbs, New Mexico for the first night. We stayed at the Sands Motel. And believe it or not, I was in Hobbs recently, and the Sands Motel is still there.
Still there. Wow.
And we went on to El Paso and Ruidoso and came home. And you know the story from when we were going to spend the night back at your mom and dad's house.
Yeah.
I'm already a little bit nervous about this, you know,
bet.
because I'm tiptoeing around, and we get ready to go to bed, and Charline's already in bed, and just as I step in bed, all the slats fall out of the bed, and the mattress
That was a
collapsed.
big racket. Oh, that was.
It's
that
like
was
somebody
funny. Oh,
somebody ran into the house, you know.
yeah.
Your dad came down the hall and he said, "What's going on?" I in bed, fella. You were laughing. I know you were next door and you
Oh,
were
it was
laughing.
just laughing. Yeah, that was really funny to me. It really was.
After we got married, we had an apartment in Lubbock. It was an efficiency apartment. We couldn't find anything else because it was hard to find an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And the one we had, you had a Murphy bed come down out of the closet and you fold it up every day. Oh, what a mess. But anyway, Charline worked at an insurance agency. And I was still going to school, but I worked from 6 o'clock in the evening till midnight at a service station pumping gas. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But we finished out, and as soon as that was over, we decided to go back to La Mesa, and we rented an apartment in La Mesa. And I went to work back in the oil field. Went to work for Harry Bass. Worked for Harry Bass for, well, until things started to play out, you know. I'd spent, you know, all this time working in the oil fields, and that seemed, at the time, that was about the best job you could get.
They call that roughnecking.
Roughnecking.
Yeah. And were you lead tongue or backup
Oh,
or motor man or what?
when I worked for Montex, I learned all the jobs on the floor, which is lead tongues. That's where I started.
Yeah.
Then worked back up, sewing the chain, and never did work motors, but I could have. That's where you taking care of all the engines and everything running. So, but I had a multitude of jobs over the next 2 or 3 years, and we wound up, because the oil field was playing out in La Mesa around in the West Texas area. So I had gone to work for a company called Kerr McGee out of Oklahoma City. No, Falcon Seaboard. It was Falcon Seaboard. And the rig was moving to Lindsay, Oklahoma. And Milton was working on, Milton and I worked together quite a bit. He worked derricks, and then I usually worked on the floor. Mm-hmm. And we followed the rig to Lindsay, Oklahoma. It was going to be a depot, which is going to 18,000 feet, which
Wow.
is, it was I'd worked on all these this was a big rig.
It would had to have been to go that
Yeah,
deep.
it was a big rig, and I went to work as a motorman on the evening shift, and that's where they come out of the hole, and I take the pipe and stack it over here, and it comes. But that's anyway. We were there probably about 3 months, I guess, and it was on the same job, and it was still going. And I decided, because I'd been working in the oil field and been hurt and everything else, and I thought, we will. I want to be a businessman. So I bought a service station. A bad move. I should have stayed in the oil field. But, and I'll back up a little bit because, my dad had got hurt in the oil field. He had no business working in the oil field.
Yeah, he got really hurt. Yeah.
He got really hurt, and of course it cost him half his arm,
Yeah,
and
I know.
but anyway, I knew that was never the oil field was never going to be a long-term deal. So that's the reason I bought the service station, a Gulf station in La Mesa. And 2 years later, I got a chance to unload it, which I did, and it was 16 hours. It was a real lesson in
Yeah.
keeping guys working, keeping them from, I guess, stealing gas, everything. You could do everything in the world, but you couldn't catch them, And anyway, that was not, it was long hours, and, it just didn't work out. So as soon as I sold the station, there's still not a lot of jobs in the La Mesa area. So I went up the street. I knew this guy named Bernie Williams that had a station, and I worked for him about 2 or 3 months. And Don Hackney had an old distributorship, gasoline distributorship. So I went to work with him driving an 18-wheeler, believe it or not, hauling gasoline. How stupid we were. Charline and I, neither one thought anything about it,
Yeah.
Usually every day I'm driving at least 1 or 2 trips to the refinery, that's I could drive 400 miles a day and then unload and haul gas, and everything. So anyway, that job played out, and I guess I was there about probably maybe close to a year, and then after that I went to work for this guy hauling anything we could get. But when I worked for Don, his daddy was a Massey Ferguson tractor or implement dealer. So occasionally Don would say, okay, you haul gas today. When you get in, got the truck ready with the flatbed, go to Dallas and pick up a load of tractors. So I'd haul gas all day, and at 6 o'clock I'd leave and go to Dallas.
That's a rough job.
Yeah, and get back and try to sleep a little. I get to Dallas and try to sleep a while, But anyway, did that several times. Anyway, I hauled green peas to Brownsville from the Mesa. Charline went with me one time, and the truck had a sleeper on it, And of course, no air conditioning, the windows are all down, and she was up in the sleeper asleep. She'd probably kill me for this, but a wasp blew in the window, hit her on the leg, and she screamed, and I thought, what in the world's going on? But anyway, but back up a little bit. When I had the service station, we had this wonderful little boy come to visit us, come to live with us, Barry. He was born in November the 21st, 1960. And what a blessing that one's been. And I went to work for Lamesa Auto Supply.
Okay.
That was on a whole different path. I've done, in my lifetime, I've done the furniture, I've done this, I've driven trucks, I've done everything. But this was off in a different direction in the auto parts. And I worked Lamesa Auto Supply until, I said 1963. They bought a store in Seminole and asked me if I would like to manage it or if I would manage it. And I thought, Charline and I has talked about it, but she was always, if there was an opportunity for her, she should go for it, And not one to say, oh no, I don't think we need to do that, or let's stay here, or let's do this. If it's an opportunity for you and us, go for it. So we moved to Seminole, and
This was before Barry was born.
no, it was after Barry.
After Barry
Yeah.
was born. Okay.
Yeah, I've kind of missed part of the story.
That's okay. That's okay.
But, he came along when we had the station,
Okay.
and that's when we bought our first house. When we had this station, we bought a little house on North 8th Street that was new, but it had 900 square feet.
900 square.
3-bedroom, 900 square feet. Asbestos siding, the whole bit. So anyway, we kept that for a long time. But we moved to Seminole. Charline and her mother went over to Seminole looking around, and knew S.C. Moore. I think your mother and daddy knew S.C. Moore was the builder.
Oh yeah.
And he had built 3 new houses all in a row, and we bought one of the new houses
In Seminole.
in Seminole, 1,400 square feet. Paid $12,000 for it.
$12,000.
And when I went to West Texas recently, I went by there and took a picture of it, and it's still there, still looked really nice.
Wow.
But after we'd been over there for a while, I wanted to buy the store I was running. They wouldn't sell it to me, so I thought, good idea, I'll just put in a store. So
In Seminole.
in Seminole. So we bought a lot, built a new building, and believe it or not, the building is still there. It was a cinder block building. And when I went by the other day, or when I was out there, I took a picture of it, and it was still there, still nice. A cable company had come in. I kept it a long time, and then I sold it. In the 70s, I guess, I sold it. But it makes you feel good when you see something that's still there, still good,
bet.
So.
You bet.
But in 1964, Steve was born. He was born November the 14th in 1964. So
that made up the family.
that was the family.
Yeah.
2 was it. That Charline, we got 2 boys. That's it. And I was able to provide where she didn't have to go out and get a job.
Yeah. Not unless she wanted to.
Unless she wanted to, she didn't want to.
No, not after the boys were.
No, she wanted to, and she helped me.
Yeah.
At the store or the station or whatever I was doing, she was helping me.
Yeah.
And that was the same way all through our lives.
Yeah.
And
It was a good partnership.
it was a good partnership. I guess it's one the Lord put together, and of course it lasted a long time. But and by 1968, I knew. But during that time, to supplement the auto parts, I bought a big sewing machine, industrial sewing machine. So back to doing upholstery, and I did a lot of large tarps, for truck tarps, and that really supplemented everything that we were doing. And
Did a real good job. Yeah.
yeah, it did. It really helped out, and so, we were in. Charlie and I came to Dallas for some reason, January 1968, and I had read in the paper that Braniff was hiring.
Braniff Airlines.
Braniff Airlines, and I asked her, I said, do you think I ought to go by there and apply? She said, why not? So I went by and applied, and behold, they offered me a job working in the upholstery department.
Yeah.
Painting airplanes in the upholstery department. So I accepted. I said, I have things I have to clean up and I have to do before I can go to work. And they said, well, get them done. And I went over and talked to the supervisor at the upholstery, at the shop in Brown.
This was in Love Field?
At Love Field.
Okay.
And he said, get it done and I'll hold the job. And so back to Seminole, and within 2 or 3 weeks I had sold everything, sold the store out, sold everything, kept the building and had it leased out. And we had our house sold. And we moved to Dallas and rented a new apartment. It was a brand new apartment. We moved in on Jared E. Circle. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't.
It's over there off of Forest Lane, I think. So,
Was that named after Jerry Lee Lewis?
yeah, I guess so. But we went to work from Braniff, working. I thought the first day I went into work, they put me working in the shop up. They had 2 shops. One was down on the hangar floor, and one was up in the upholstery shop. Put me in the upholstery shop, and they said, sit down at this machine and started sewing armrests, sewing the armrest, and then I could put them on. I thought, hey, this is gonna work out. Mm-hmm. And about halfway through the shift, they came and they said, we need you to come with us, and need you to go by the supply room, get a pair of coveralls. Uh-oh. Anyway, they put me down standing on an airplane.
Oh.
You know how the union is. Somebody had complained that they put me on a sewing machine.
Oh, I see.
So anyway, down to the floor. But that's all right, Then I went into the paint shop, doing painting in the. Of course, we did everything.
You were not a member of the union at this point.
And well, I was in my 90-day. You had to go 90 days to pass, probation, I guess.
Probation,
yeah. You had 90-day probation, so. But I made my 90 days, and then I had to join the union, and everything was going really good. I was working, I'd rotate shifts and everything, but what we did, we would, not only did we paint airplanes, but when a plane would come in, we strip everything out of it, clean it up, and redo a refurb on it, refurb it. Mm-hmm. Then I went to work transferred over to line service, where when one would come in, you do a quick thing, it would come in from a trip, it would come over and we'd change seat covers or something, and then it would go out. But, let's see, we bought a new house. We thought, boy, this is all gonna work out. So we bought a new house in 70, I guess, in January of 70. We bought the house in Bedford.
Okay, yeah.
And they were voting in, had a new contract. We were voting in a new contract. And I went to the meeting, and this guy went with me as my friend, and then we listened to all the, the new contract and to vote on it. And I told him, I said, you better start looking for a job, because we're not going to have one in 2 months.
Oh, you could tell. Huh?
I knew, because they told us they were going to farm out part of our work to the Apache Indians in Roswell. Some of the paint work and stuff, and so.
Wow.
Sure enough, in January of 70, I guess I got laid off, and got a new house. My dad, of course, had leukemia at the time, and he was, suffering with that. So we were going through that. And my next door neighbor was a psychiatrist, and he said, I don't know how you're holding all this together, but I said, that's just what you do.
That's true.
You just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 70, back to the auto parts stuff, you know, I did whatever jobs I could get, you know, after I got laid off. And there was one that came up pretty quick after I got laid off, and it was a manufacturer's agent with the territory in West Texas. In Lubbock, and Charlie and I talked about it. It would require a move back to West Texas. She said, well, you know, whatever you think. You know, I told the guys when I interviewed I needed to think about it a little bit and talk to my wife. And she said, well, if that's what we have to do, we have to do. And I went back and told her, I said, well, I'll take the job. And they said, sorry, it's already filled.
Oh.
But anyway, I think that goes back to what I told you earlier. The Lord works in ways, I think he puts you where he wants you, you know, and things, because we stayed in Dallas, or stayed in Bedford. And I got a job working in a factory making file cabinets, and I was running a spot welder, and it was not a good job. And this guy I'd talked to at Hearst Auto Supply called Charline one evening and said, can your husband come to work? And she called me, or I called her at lunch, and I said, tell her I'll be there tomorrow. So anyway, that I worked for a good while, probably through the summer, for Hearst Auto Supply, and then they wanted me to manage another store, which I did, and then I went to work for a manufacturer's agent, and that.
Now, this was still all in Dallas?
Yeah, still in Bedford, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that's when I traveled. It was traveling Louisiana. That's when I started traveling. My territory was East Texas and Louisiana, all the way to New Orleans, you know, calling on warehouses, automotive warehouses. And I did that for a year, and I guess that it just didn't work out. You know, it's too much traveling and not enough money. And then I worked for a while at Qualitron, back to the upholstery, doing executive aircraft interiors for a while. And then, let's see, along came this guy I knew, Coy Burnett, with Arvin Industries. I had been talking to him a time or two, and he said, I'd like to, if I could get a job, you know, if I have something open up, I'd like to try to get you hired on. And I said, sure. And he called me one day and he said, I got an opening. And so I went to Columbus, Indiana, and interviewed with Arvin. And suddenly I have a company car, you got insurance, you got a good salary, you know, everything's. But while I was off, I started this little company called Mr. Electric. Did I tell you about that?
Go ahead.
But I thought, if you remember, and you know, because you were doing alternators and starters at Welch, and the old alternators, all you did was change the brushes and the bearings, remember? So I put this kit together with the brushes and the bearings and instructions on how to do them, called Mr. Electric. And put them in a sack and put them on a card, you know, where you could hang them up. And I was selling those things like, they were like hotcakes. I'd hold hundreds of them.
Wow.
And then this job came along, and I thought, I can't pass up insurance, and
Yeah.
because I was going to add to Mr. Electric with regulators
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, my territory again was East Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas.
Back on the road.
Back on the road, but I had a company car, and you know, good. So I spent the problem was Coy quit, you know, pretty quick after I went to work, because I was looking forward to working with him.
Yeah.
And he quit, and they hired this guy as an older guy, was an alcoholic.
Oh my.
In fact, he carried his briefcase with a fifth of Canadian Club in it. That's all he carried in his briefcase.
Oh goodness.
I had to travel with him, and he smoked like a train, you know, and it just was chain smoking. And I spent 2 years, I guess, dealing with him. And
Oh.
you know, but he sent me to, I had to go to Denver, I had to go to everywhere, you know, he'd send me everywhere. And then the guy that I interviewed with, Arvin, had moved to Marymount in Chicago.
Okay.
So I called him up and I said, do y'all have anything? And he said, well, come to Chicago and interview. So I did. Went to the interviewer and he said, we're starting a whole new division of World Parts, which is foreign car parts. And so I switched and went to work for Marymount, and it was World Parts. And it was like starting up a whole new company.
Oh, yeah.
And because if you remember back in the 70s, there weren't that many foreign cars, you know, on the road.
No, there wasn't. Not like now.
Not like now, that's all there is. But anyway, I worked for, well, my territory then, and then they promoted me to area manager, and I had, I think, 8 or 10 guys that I had to, you know, it's like herding cats sometimes. You give them a company car, you give them expense money, and then try to make them sure that they're doing their jobs, you know, which, but I worked for a guy named, my boss was a guy named Darrell Jones, and we were good friends. And then we about pretty crossways about another situation that came up that I won't go into that. But anyway, I transferred over in the shock division to Gabriel, and stayed there for a little while. And then I came over with you, remember? Mm-hmm. And got on the telephone and started looking for computer equipment.
Yeah.
I would work like in the mornings to go do what I needed to do with Gabriel, and then come over there in the afternoons and spend all afternoon. And I was making more money working with you than I was making at World Parts. I came over to your place, was working part-time, you know,
right.
And we decided to start because of all of the obsolete equipment, because of technology was changing. So every day the large machines were going obsolete because of the technology. And you remember warehouses were sitting full of stuff that people were paying for lease or, you know, money for storage on those things. They wanted to go away. And then we started, you know, and Fred Fennell built your refinery and built me one both. But
yeah, we discovered that there was a lot of gold in those machines.
That was like finding a gold mine, you know.
It sure was.
But anyway, after we started, you know, I bought your partnership out, and
started computer recovery.
Started computer recovery, and we, from 1980 through 91, I guess, we did scrap. But, you know, during all of this period, when we started, there was only like 3 of us, you know, that were doing.
Yeah.
Sam Emersano, and then the Gibb brothers in North Dakota were doing it, and I was doing the scrap, you know.
Right, yeah.
Of course, I had the big semi, and I had, you know, the box trucks picking up stuff and hauling it. And I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but I had storage in Chicago and storage in the Bay Area in San Francisco. That stuff I could get the movers to move it in and store it till I could get it loaded out.
Yeah.
And I had this guy named, we quit tearing everything down because of the labor involved, and the refining was dangerous.
Yes.
Because we were dealing with cyanide and some really bad stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the Chinese people from Taiwan, the guys started showing up with those little airline bags full of cash, you know, mm-hmm. and wanting to buy everything that we had, and we could actually sell it for more without touching it, other than just moving it,
right.
than we could tearing it down.
Right.
And so this guy bought nearly everything I had for 4 or 5 years. And we at one time bought everything in Honolulu and the islands that we bought and had it moved into a warehouse over there. But we went over there one Thanksgiving. I took Charline and the boys, and we spent Thanksgiving in Honolulu, and then paid for the trip, and still made money off of it.
Those were the days. weren't
Those
they?
were the days, but in the meantime, Barry was going to TCU, and he had met another guy that was doing programming that will kind of come back into the picture. And he wanted to do some programming, so he came and asked Charline to get him a computer. So we bought an Apple. It was an Apple III. I can't remember what it was, but it had an Apple with 2 floppy disks on it.
Yeah.
So he wrote the Master Scout. I showed you the brochure on it, which was the tendencies on football and what people do in certain situations. And while we were still doing all of the obsolete scrap, I guess electronic recycling is the proper term. And Charline and I went to a lot of coaching shows to present, the Scout, which we sold quite a few of them, but schools notoriously don't have a lot of money in their
No.
budget for
Yeah,
extra. Of course they do now, if it's football or whatever, they'll.
yeah.
But we had put it in Arlington High School, a bunch of schools. We had it at North Texas, and I was actually talking to Bobby Collins at SMU. That's when he got fired and they shut everything down, the football program. So we didn't get SMU, but anyway, that there was just not a lot of money in it. So, and I guess in 85, that Barry had met this guy and learned to program the RPG stuff. And somebody asked, he was working at the co-op as a DP manager, and somebody asked him if he could come up with a program for the bank that would, track people coming in and out of the bank. And so he needed an old 36. So I got him an old used 36, you remember? And he had that in his garage and had it plugged into the dryer port on it. And it took about 4 or 5 months. He wrote a program that could track the time in and out. And along with that, I was still doing all the obsolete stuff. And I told Barry, I said, whatever you come up with, I'll sell it. You fix it, or you come up with it, I'll sell it. And so we sold several systems. We called it the time clock.
Right.
And you saw the brochure on it.
Yeah.
But with the 36, you could sell a whole big package of it for maybe $2,000. And there wasn't a whole lot of money there. But as junk is playing out in 89 and 90, the AS400s came out, and Barry said, I think this is what we need. So I bought a new AS400, which was pretty expensive at the time.
Yes.
And he went to work converting everything from the 36 over to the AS400.
And he was still employed at the.
He was still employed at the co-op.
Co-op
And he was
at
doing
this
all of
point.
this part-time,
Okay.
All
Right.
And he got everything converted. And suddenly a package that was selling for $2,000 now selling for $20,000. And so we sold quite a few packages but we needed a time clock. And so I went through everything, was all the time clocks, and Kronos time clocks were it at the time because they were hooked up to a PC system. And so I cold called Aaron Ain, which is the CEO at Kronos at the time.
That was in Boston.
In Boston. And out of that cold call, we paid a guy to fix us come up with a program that would allow us to connect a clock to our Cronus clock to the AS400. And then I was buying Cronus clocks from one of the dealers out of Dallas, was selling them.
Right.
We sold people like Baxter Healthcare and sold them like 14, 15 clocks, and there's big money to make out of the clocks.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, went back to Cronus and took us over a year to back and forth that finally we put a deal together that we decided Barry will come in, and we created a partnership with myself and Barry and Charline
Right.
to have the time clock, and so we took us a year to come to an agreement with Cronus, and about the time we got the deal all worked out, and Barry and I are in Boston, and we think it's going to get the money and run, and Mark Ain, which was really he was the guy that originally came up with Cronus. He said, "We're not going to do this unless y'all stay." So
And become employees.
employees of Cronus.
Okay.
So we looked at us and said, "Okay, yeah, we'll do that." So, so we got the insurance and the whole package, becoming good. So I ran all of this. They said, "What we'll do?" I said, "Will y'all move to Boston?" We said, "Oh no, no."
You all moved to
We
Cleveland.
moved to Cleveland. And in fact, we were building a building in Cleveland at the time, and we just created a whole new division, called it the AS400 division. So Barry was running the development, I guess the research and development, the R&D, and I was over the sales, and then Charline was doing the admin stuff for it.
Right.
So, and we, and over the next few years, we had up to 50-something employees. We were doing all the training. I was over all the training, and
Didn't this time clock division turn out to be one of the biggest money makers for Cronus?
yes, it did.
That's what I thought.
And I hate to even mention, but I ran the sales for 9 years. I had two guys that worked directly for me that traveled all the time, and Charline and I traveled. We were so fortunate because we had offices in every major city in the country. And Charline and I got the opportunity. She would just go with me, and we got the opportunity to travel everywhere, and to the west and the east and the north, and very fortunate to do that. And then the guys that I had worked long, they'd go to. We had an account in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Australia and New Zealand, and I said, Larry, they took a 2-week trip for him to do all of that, And of course, went to one of the works that I did was in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. That we had a big account there. So, but anyway, that the 9 years that I ran the sales. I hate to even mention it, did $100 million worth of software and $250 million in clocks. So.
And Barry, at this point, became a senior vice president.
Yeah, he did.
of Cronus. Yeah.
After I left, they promoted him to a senior vice president, and he stayed for 30 years, I guess, 29 years or almost 30, and retired. And in the meantime, Aaron retired. Aaron was like a godfather to us, you know. And so we could never, Aaron and I've talked about it before, it was just something you could never ever do, repeat,
That was one of the most perfect mergers I had ever witnessed.
It
was Cronus and the time clock division for you.
There was never of the whole thing was never ever any kind of an issue with anything. And we just, at one time when I was, we built the second building in the back for the programmers, and when we built it originally, it was training, to do training back there. And then across the street, we built another building, which was training. And but before we did that, I had a suite in the stockyards over in the, that people love to come to the stockyards for training. They come. We put them in the Stockyards Hotel, and then it was before all of the commercial stuff that's over there now, and people loved it, and it was quite a ride, I'm telling you.
It sure was.
And after we retired, Charline and I retired in '02, and we did 22 cruises, I guess. And, and
a lot of those were with Kathy and I.
They were.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a blessing to do that with you guys. And,
yeah, thank goodness we got to do it.
And then it just, I'm so happy that last December, when Barry had his retirement party, that Charline was able to go, and she was, we got to enjoy that, and all of it was like a kind of a reunion, because we had,
well, it was a reunion.
30-something people.
Yeah.
We had people that were there the whole 30 years, some 29, some, and the thing, Charline and I both started to thank them for their service. And they said, oh, no, we thank you guys, because we were able to pay for our homes, educate our children, for everything. And they said, we thank you guys for that opportunity.
Like I say, I don't think I have ever seen a better merger between two companies than that turned out to be. Really,
you would think that over a period of time that things would deteriorate and things would, it just kept getting better, And now Cronus is changed to a UKG Ultimate Cronus Group, because they actually bought all the competition. And probably they're a $4 or $5 billion company today. So, and I feel like we kind of helped put them on the map.
Well, you did. No doubt about it. Yeah.
So.
And they fully acknowledge that.
Oh, they do. They do. When Charline passed, some of the kind words and things that we got from Cronus, and from the past employees, and Aaron, and some of the other people at Cronus.
Well, Sammy, let's kind of wrap this up with what are you doing now?
I know when Charline passed, of course I was kind of in a deep hole, but I know what she would tell me is get off your butt and get busy.
Yep.
I'm gone, but you're not. You stay busy, and I know that's what she would say.
Yep.
And I have, and unfortunately with Barry and Steve, what rocks they are. And with the building here, I have an office here that I have a place to go here at the real estate office. And then I have I converted my, we had just bought a new car, and I sold it because I didn't need, the 3 vehicles. And so I opened up one garage, and now I was just putting around in an antique store, and I saw a pair of spurs, and I picked them up, and away we go, so.
Yeah, so now you've got a website?
We've got a website, cowboysams.com, and I've got all kinds of Western memorabilia, I've got saddles and all the time.
You learned that trade back years and years
years
and
and
years
years
ago.
ago.
You
Yeah.
know, and now you've got you a new a commercial sewing machine and all that, and still doing them.
Still doing sewing, and I made chaps, and I've made saddlebags, and I've done, a lot of stuff. And look at it's been a blessing because Steve enjoys the same things that I do. Usually on the weekends, we're out looking for either spurs, and I'm lucky I've found to been able to collect some really, really good collectible spurs. And but after a lot of research, and just this past weekend we bought a saddle that was the last they made were in 1920s, so I don't know. And I joined a association of collectors from it's the National Bit, Spur, and Saddle Collectors Association. And I've talked to a couple of the guys that have been such mentors, to share their knowledge. And so that's kind of where I am today. I feel good. My health is good, and
Yeah, we've both been very lucky so far.
we have.
There's a lot of people our age, are invalids at this point, and
Are no longer with us, and it.
a lot of them have passed. Yeah.
And some of the things that when Charline passed, it's just some of the things that happened. It's just like I know where she is, and there's no doubt about it because of the things that happened, and the way everything. And
Well, and you've still got a part of her in your boys.
oh yeah, she's everywhere I go, at home or here or at the office. Everywhere I go, it's just there's reminders because she's decorated the place. It's part of me constantly, so.
Where do we go from here, Sammy? 'Cause I'm right at the same age of you.
Where we go is put one foot in front of it every day. You get up with a fresh look every day, and look for a new challenge every day.
Well, you told me that you were thinking about going to a convention in Amarillo,
Yeah.
and so that's coming up. And I think you and Neil and I are planning on going to Barrett Jackson auction in Phoenix in January. So we've got a few things coming up.
We have, and I was looking through the drawer the other night, in the desk drawer, and I came across something that Charline had written. Was after we had gone, it was like an end of the year letter, and in the letter she had written that you and I and Neil had gone to Barrett Jackson and had a wonderful time, and she was so happy about that we got to do that.
Yeah.
And that was in 2013.
Yeah,
That's been 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
And bless her heart, her mind was right on, right to the very end. She never lost she lost the ability to speak.
Yeah.
But she never lost the spark that she had, or she never lost
Her faith.
faith. And we talked about it, she balanced her checkbook. I'm still like 1 week before she passed away.
I can barely do that now.
I know, and I've had to take that over and try to follow in her footsteps, and it's hard to do. But I think about all the years, all the way through everything. She was always on top of everything that was, everything that we did. She was involved in everything that I ever did.
Well, it's kind of like your company and Cronus being a perfect partnership, and with you and Charline.
It was. Yeah,
perfect partnership. And you raised a couple of really good boys, and they've got their families now, and they're all doing very, very well.
And the Lord, I guess, has blessed us at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
we've always been blessed. And then, like, I think I mentioned that we recently sold our buildings in Cleveland that we had, and I felt all of the time that we were doing Cronus, how blessed we were. And then when we got the opportunity to sell the buildings, we sold them to the church next door. And how blessed they will be from the time we sold them, because they will be able to expand their church,
Sure.
their Sunday schools, and they were very fortunate too. They wanted them really bad for a long time, and we were glad to do that, because after we had sold them and everything, they invited Barry and I to come to a service, and they had us stand up or come to the front and acknowledge that.
Well, it's been quite a life, hasn't it?
It's been a good life, and there's been ups and downs with hardships of jobs and everything else, but
That's life.
that's life. And never once, because I started out with nothing. Charlie and I started out basically with not a whole lot of anything, but we had each other,
That's right.
and fortunately we were blessed along the way. So.
Sammy, I appreciate this, and we'll put it all together.
Well, Duane, I appreciate the opportunity to share, and I feel like I've had a pretty good story, a pretty good life to.
Yeah, I've learned a lot I didn't know.
So it's a lot of things that you never talk about. You know, there's just things that's just life.
Okay, well, I hope we live long, fruitful lives from here on.
I think so. I wish both of us a long life.